Frozen foods must have a temperature below 0 or below. Freezing may not kill bacteria. They can still live and grow and hang out. Don't overload the freezer, otherwise the air circulation won't circulate, and therefore you will get product that either isn't frozen or takes too long to get cold. Reject the shipment if there's signs of thawing and refreezing. Ice crystals, what ice crystals shows the product was defrosted, and then the process of refreezing took too long, so it caused ice crystals. Or if there's signs of open cartons, as we discussed before. There's lots of government regulations to deal with, and one that's been around a long time and one that's kind of new. Meat and poultry inspections are done by the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And allergies are getting a ton of attention these days. The Food Allergen Labeling and Consumer Protection Act is pretty new, and that covers all packaged food that's regulated by the FDA. Ice as food must be handled as carefully as any other edible product. Ice cubes can become contaminated with dangerous bacteria or toxic chemicals which can cause foodborne illness. How do they get contaminated? With cross-contamination from hands and from things that you put in there. We've seen just about everything in ice bin, from the ice scoops to the salad dressings and people's Cokes and whatever, seen about everything in there, right? So next up is going to be a show from, it's 5 minutes long, and it's from Dateline. Dateline's done a few things, or maybe it was 60 Minutes. I'm not sure which. Did a study, some kids whose one of their fathers was a scientist, and he put the kids up for a high school science project, checking out in the Washington, D.C. area. I think it was 20 restaurants, and he checked their refrigerator their ice machine versus the toilet bowl to see which was dirtier. And obviously he wouldn't be talking about it if it was the toilet bowl that was dirtier. It was the ice machines that were dirtier. And why would that be? I'm guessing the toilet bowl at least, swirls around every time you flush it, and most everybody flushes it, and even the worst of places is going to squirt some stuff in there once in a while. Disinfectant to clean it, and who cleans their ice bin? When there's a power outage and all the ice melts, I guess they do it, but other than that, most places don't do it very often. So stay tuned, and the next slide is going to give you a nice expose, a lot of good learning tips on ice and how it can become contaminated.
It's one of the staples of summer in our drinks and our coolers at our parties, and chances are you don't think twice about how safe it is. But as you'll learn tonight, you should. Here's Victoria Corderi with a Dateline hidden camera investigation.
It began as a medical mystery that made big news in Phoenix, Arizona. This healthy 15-year-old boy played a round of golf, went home, and by morning, he was dead.
Even at the funeral, it wasn't real. I kept wanting to wait. I kept wanting to wake up.
For days, Scott Beeman had no idea why his son died. But then, a clue. He'd played in a junior golf tournament that day, and dozens of other young golfers also got sick. Health officials traced a gastrointestinal illness to coolers like this one, containing drinking water for the golfers.
It was from something in those Igloo coolers.
That something was norovirus. Officials believe a sick employee who had not washed his hands contaminated the ice in the coolers.
Can I have a cup of ice, please?
It's the food no one thinks of as, well, food. And if contaminated food can make you sick, can ice do the same? We asked an expert.
Anything that we're going to consume, if it's not handled properly, can cause a health risk.
Something Scott Beeman and some 80 other golfers learned firsthand in 2002. Norovirus is rarely fatal to healthy people. The 15-year-old died because he choked on his vomit. The golf course settled a wrongful death lawsuit filed by the Beemans for $3 million without admitting wrongdoing. The boy's father is still reeling from the tragedy.
What happened to my son could have been avoided. What happened to the other 80-some people that got sick should have been avoided.
How? It's simple, says Deborah Huffman, a microbiologist with the University of South Florida. Soap and water. In this country, she says, it's not the water used to make ice that usually makes people sick. It's the way people handle the ice.
Most people don't realize that not washing their hands could cause death. They just don't see the risk.
People can pass germs to ice just as easily as they can to other foods, she says, and never realize it.
It's not going to smell funny. It's not going to look funny. These are microscopic, and so you're not going to see it. You wouldn't know it happened.
That may be why many people who handle ice don't seem all that concerned, even though scientists say ice actually can preserve some germs. We took our hidden cameras to 20 food service locations, fast food places, mall eateries, hotel restaurants, and stadium vendors. We collected ice samples from each place for testing, and as we ordered our drinks, we carefully observed how employees actually handle ice.
Thank you.
Right away, we saw employees dredge the cups directly through the ice with their bare hands. A big food safety no-no and a health code violation.
Anything that's contacted or hand now, you're running it all the way through the ice. Microbes are great travelers.
So you can appreciate that. We got this luminescent powder used by food safety experts. It glows under ultraviolet light so you can see how germs travel. One shake roughly represents the number of germs produced by a sneeze. So when I pick up this cup and dredge it through the ice, you can see what happens. I've spread the germs onto the cup and to the ice. We also saw something on our hidden cameras that didn't look unsafe. Workers using a scoop to retrieve ice. Scoops the ice, drops it back in.
Yep, it's exactly what we don't want him doing. That handle of the scoop, if you're going to handle it with bare hands, should never go back into the ice that we're going to serve. Anything that you can transfer from your hands to another surface, in this case it would be the scoop first, and then from the scoop to the ice, can transmit the pathogens. The ice will be consumed, and then you're going to get it.
Okay. And that made the next thing we noticed a little more disturbing. Employees who handle ice touch everything around the service counter, including money.
Thank you.
Which means they could possibly contaminate the scoop and anything else they touch.
They're still not thinking ice as something that you're consuming. They're not thinking of ice. That's why it's called the forgotten food.
A fountain soda, like with ice.
Only once did we see this. A worker doing it correctly, stowing the ice scoop outside the bin so neither her hand nor the scoop's handle touches the ice. But at this stadium, not only was the server putting the scoop in the ice, she also put a package of unopened cups there, potentially contaminating the ice with anything that was on that package. It's impossible to estimate how often ice becomes contaminated, or just how many people get sick from contaminated ice. Unless they become very ill, says Huffman, they usually suffer their intestinal bugs in silence.
They're typically not going to go see their physician.
And have no idea that it came from contaminated ice.
That's correct. But more likely associated with something that they ate that didn't agree with them.
Dr. Huffman tested our 20 samples of ice and found one of them was contaminated. Surprisingly, it came from a place you might think would be safe, a self-serve soda machine.
We did find one of these samples, in fact, was contaminated by fecal matter.
It may have been self-serve, but the ice still had to be loaded by hand. Huffman says likely by an employee with dirty hands. Someone hearing that would say, well, that's certainly gross. But is it more than that?
Absolutely. The fact that we detected these indicators mean that other things might be present, and that's the risk.
Things, she says, like hepatitis or salmonella, or a host of intestinal bugs that are dangerous to the very young, the elderly, and anyone with a weak immune system.
It doesn't take high concentrations to make you sick, especially with the viruses.
Ice handling is part of food safety training, says Donna Guerin of the National Restaurant Association.
Obviously, we do not condone restaurant companies and their employees not observing food safety practices. The vast majority of our restaurant industry does comply, and they take it very seriously.
So what can you do to reduce the risk of getting sick? Experts say you should pay attention to how servers handle the ice, or skip it altogether.
Hi, can I get a small Diet Coke with no ice?
And as for those soda machines, look for one with a built-in ice maker like this one that doesn't require loading. It's simply a matter of remembering what can happen if ice falls into the wrong hands.
You probably think you're washing your hands correctly, but are you? You'll find a demonstration on our website. Just log on to dateline.msnbc.com.
Thawing food is another biggie that causes foodborne illness. Frozen foods may be thawed in one of the following 4 ways. If the test question asks you, or life asks you, what's the best way to thaw, that would be in a refrigerator. Or you can do it under cool running water at a temperature of 70 degrees or lower. In a microwave oven, only when a normal and uninterrupted part of the cooking process, whether on the stovetop or in the oven, or in an oven as part of the cooking process. So backing up, number 1, best, you thought about it ahead of time and you defrost it in a refrigerator. Second would be cool running water. If the test question says running water, that would be wrong. Warm running water, standing water. If it doesn't say it's running, then it's not running. So running water, 70 degrees or lower. Microwave oven, uninterrupted means you can't put it in the microwave, defrost it, put it back in the refrigerator, and hold it until later when you're going to cook it. You need to keep going with it, either in the microwave, or you take it out of the microwave and you put it in the oven. Or the last one is you just put it in the oven frozen and you cook it until it is done. And finally, never ever thaw food at room temperature, neither at home nor in your commercial kitchen.